Hello and good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Concise Webinar. This session is on how to reduce shopping cart abandonment, and thank you very much for attending. My name's Richard Keeves, and I would like to also welcome Gareth Lane.
That would be me. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And I will be talking about abandoned carts today, apparently.
There you go. That's the topic. No, it's an important one. So for people who haven't been to one of our webinars before, these are Concise Webinars brought to you by Concise Digital. But more importantly, the sessions themselves are concise. They are 100% educational and hopefully full of useful business information you can use directly after or even during the webinar session. So we are recording this session and you're very welcome to ask questions as we go through. Hopefully will be some question time at the end. This session is on shopping cart abandonment. And this is an issue for lots and lots, in fact, almost every e-commerce store owner, any online shop owner. What we're hoping to do today is to explain a bit about it and understand so that you can more clearly understand what it is and what it's not, and also what to do about it. So the focus, well, let's start with shopping cart abandonment. What is it? The best definition is one we made up ourselves. This is the name for when an online shopper who has added a product to an online shopping cart does not complete the purchase. Okay, they do not complete the transaction at that time in that session. They may come back later and purchase potentially, but when they did not complete that transaction in that session, that's referred to as shopping cart abandonment. Now, there are lots of stats around this. The average abandonment rate across lots and lots of websites and e-commerce platforms is roughly 70%. What that means is 69%. 69% of shoppers do not complete their purchase. So what is a shopper? A shopper is somebody who adds something to their shopping cart. Okay. The flip side of this, of course, at least at a positive level, is on average 31% of people who do add something to their shopping cart do complete the purchase. On average, these stats vary enormously. These stats come from the Behaviour Institute, who are some really nice guys in Copenhagen. I've run some webinars with them in the past, and they are e-commerce specialists who don't build websites. They research and have done for the last 10 years, looking at how to improve websites and e-commerce stores. So, and all the things you can do. So Baymard are a really good resource if you would like to know more about the kind of best practice and benchmarks. Let's look at what this means though. Of the people who visit a website, there are lots. Some go to view the category of product. Some go to view a product within the category. Those that go on, they may then add the product to their cart. Okay, this becomes kind of pretty obvious, but what we're talking about is the cart abandonment here. We're not talking about the browse abandonment. That's another thing. Like, it contributes, but people who visit a web store and then don't decide to add a product to the cart are abandoning the site, leaving the site during the process of them browsing through it. So it's an important distinction, really, because there are lots of reasons why people abandon the website without interacting as a shopper. So we have a distinction of shoppers and browsers, if you like. So why do customers abandon their shopping cart? Well, there's lots of reasons. We're going to drill into some of them today, but some people are just distracted. They were in the process of doing something, having a shopping time, and their kid called them from the next room and said, "Hey, Dad, Mum, have a look at this." Or they were in a business situation and the phone rang, and they then went back to what they were doing. So people stop processes for all sorts of reasons, not necessarily because they didn't want to buy. And that's the point here. If they were distracted and did want to buy, then it's an important thing to be able to then follow those people up. Usability of websites. This is a big issue. Perceived risk of fraud. If the website looks unsafe, and then people will just decide that they don't want to progress with it. A classic one for people abandoning their shopping cart is deciding that something that they thought might be suitable for them isn't going to be. Shoes, clothing, all sorts of things like that people love. Some people at least love to buy online, then decide, well, actually, I'm not really sure if that's the size for me, and will it fit? Or even products. You know, if you're trying to buy a security door for a house, and you think, oh, I'm not quite sure. I think that's the right size, but I better go measure up. Then this kind of the does it fit question. They don't want to buy just yet. They can't buy. Technical issues are a real problem, and additional costs. So there's lots of reasons why people abandon, but let's now drill into a real live scenario, and Gareth is going to just help you understand these. This is from Google Analytics, which is a really helpful tool to understand what's going on your website. Gareth, over to you.
Thanks, Richard. So this screen here is pulled from Google Analytics e-commerce data. Now, if you get into your Google Analytics and you can't see this information, then you will need to sort of configure your Google Analytics to include e-commerce data, which is not particularly difficult. It does take an hour or so to fiddle around and make work, but it's not set up by default. So if you need a hand with that, then that's another issue. But this particular screen has some simple information on it. There's a 1 month view, so from August 15 to October 14 in the top right there, and it's looking at an overall summary, which is revenue for the business and its e-commerce conversion rate, the number of transactions, and the number average order value. So on the face of it, you might be quite happy with this. The business did nearly 280,000 with a 4%
That's 2
conversion.
months, by the way. Yeah.
2 months, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gareth turned brain on. And then with an average order value, but it's a little bit difficult to see, well, how many abandoned carts did we have, or were there any drop-offs, or what does that look like in relation to the number of people that came onto the website? So in order to get that information, you need to dig a little deeper. So then you can then dig into a screen that looks like this, which is labeled Shopping Behaviour Analysis, again in Google Analytics. And this will start breaking down the cart checkout process into 5 steps. So the first column is all sessions. So that's the people using the website. So in the same time frame, we've had 37,000 people use the website, and at the bottom there, 29,000 of them didn't do any shopping activity at all. Okay, so that's like 37,000 people coming to your front door, and 29,000 of them turning around and going back out again. The next column is sessions with product views. So that means that 7,000 of those 37,000 looked at a product. So they, perhaps got to the home page, and then they clicked on a category and then viewed a product. So that is an important, even though it's not an abandoned cart, it's an important metric to consider. Are you getting people to get from your landing pages to the products that you want them to buy? Because if they don't see the product in the first place, then they're never going to be able to add it to a cart. So that's another important metric to consider when you're looking at a website or improving your website and so on, is to look at the conversion from sessions to product views. So from that 7,200 people that had product views, 3,700 of them didn't add to cart. So that means they weren't put off by your payment options or potentially your shipping options or anything else in the cart. They perhaps got distracted, or they didn't like the price, or they didn't have enough information, or they weren't ready to buy yet. So again, an important metric to consider because it sort of filters down. Next one along is sessions with add to cart. So of the 37,000 overall sessions, we had almost 10% of them actually hit the add to cart button. So 3,500 people, kind of said, I'm ready to purchase. They took it to the counter, and then they changed their mind and then went, oh, not happy with this. And then so 2,043 of those people then didn't check out. And that to me would be a bit of a worry, because if I've clicked the add to cart button, then I'm probably interested, but there's something after that process that I didn't like. So that's when you would start looking at things like shipping, return policies, payment options. Can I pay with Afterpay or Zip Pay or one of those lay-by products? So if you've got a big percentage that abandon after the add to cart page, then you want to start sort of looking at those sorts of things. The next section is sessions with checkout. So that's starting the checkout process. So 2,000 of those 3,500 started going through the checkout. So that's basically people getting their credit card out of their wallet and then at the counter going to transact with it. But then 738 of them at the last second decided, oh, no, I'm not happy with this. There's something not right. And then they've abandoned. So your final column then is obviously sessions with transactions, and that's 1,500. So you can see quite clearly how 37,000 overall users can quite quickly whittle down into 1,500 sessions with transactions. And if you could get just 1% better on the first 3 columns, that will compound out to 5 or 6% improvement down at the transaction level. So it's really important to consider each element and what's happening at each stage. And the other thing I really want to make a note of is the previous screen is that we had all users selected. But the next, we've looked at the same data, but for Australian traffic. Now, this particular website, nearly all of their traffic comes from Australia anyway, but it's very important if you have a website to make sure you filter the Google Analytics data down into the likely customer audience that you have. So sometimes you might have a website which is an Australian website, but you get a lot of international traffic. So you want to make sure you filter that if you're not selling to the US, for example. And you can see how those numbers have come down. This one becomes even more interesting when you start whittling, going down into different regions. So New South Wales, for example, makes up 35% of this business's traffic. And so you can see how the conversion rates and the differences apply going through the process. So then you might start looking at, like, let's just pretend this business was a West Australian based business and 35% of their traffic from New South Wales was abandoning that business. Then you might want to start looking at, well, why does someone in New South Wales not like the website? You know, do they think we're a WA business and they don't want to deal with us, or are they a bit worried about shipping or returns, or were they looking for a location? So you really want to put yourself in the shoes of the customer and think about what would be going through their mind through their shopping, product views, add to cart, checkout. What are the little things that would put them off, and then try and fix those. Sure.
Sorry, Gareth, can you just go back to that slide? That was yeah. I think one thing that's probably worth mentioning is that the bottom section, which
sure,
new visitors and returning visitors. If that's visible to everybody.
Sure. So at the bottom of these views, there is a section that compares new visitors with returning visitors. So new visitors are people that haven't been to the website in the past. Now, it's not completely accurate because it does get affected by things like IP address changes and cookie changes and history clears and those sorts of things. But it should give you a reasonably good idea of a comparison between people that know the business and don't know the business. So when you look at new visitors, that's people who probably haven't been to the site before. And then if you look at returning visitors, which may have come from an abandoned cart email campaign or a remarketing ad or a follow-up phone call or email or something like that, you can see how it converts much better. So, for example, in this particular screen, New South Wales, in first visit, 1.2% of people transact. But if they're a returning visitor, 9.6% of them transact. So it's in this business's interest to make sure that they have a really solid email or remarketing or follow-up campaign, because the numbers are saying that if we get you back a second or third or fourth time, we're very likely to convert to you.
Yeah, and they have a higher conversion with repeat customers as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really important to dig through this data. It's pretty easy to get to in Google Analytics. If you get stuck, you're more than welcome to email one of us and we can point you out where you can see it.
Yeah, so it's important to realize that there are lots and lots of different types of visitors, and using Google Analytics and some of the other analytics tools potentially within your e-commerce platform, you can start segmenting down the data, and you can see the differences with different devices, with different customers who've bought before and those who haven't, with the number of times they've come back to the website and then transact. There's lots of things that you can do to really understand the data and then do something about it. Now, speaking of doing something about it, the guys at Baymard Institute ran a survey just this year with 4,500 responses. As you can see, they're from US adults, and asking people the reasons that they abandoned during checkout. So the question that they asked was, have you abandoned any online purchases during the checkout process in the past 3 months? If so, for what reasons? And so they then found that 56% of respondents actually said that they were just browsing or they weren't ready to buy. And so those are kind of people who really weren't, they were browsing abandoners as opposed to shopping abandoners or cart abandoners. So they've been excluded from this table. As you can see there, 50% of the people said the reason they abandoned was because there were extra costs that were just too high, shipping, tax, fees, etc. The next point, the site wanted me to create an account, and people abandoned because of that. Every e-commerce store, where possible, should have a guest checkout option so that people don't have to create an account in order to become a customer and to be a customer. People not having a guest checkout is a massive issue. A complicated checkout process, yeah, people abandon for that. They can't see what the total costs are going to be. They find out that the delivery is not going to happen in a time period that works for them. It's just too slow. The trust is the other issues, website issues. The returns policy wasn't satisfactory. That's really important these days, although interestingly, it's only 10% of the people who gave that as their reason. But it was, all of these things add up. And the interesting thing, at least we find it a very interesting thing, is almost all of those things are fixable. You can do something about almost all of those reasons. Extra costs about shipping, we've sort of put here that may be fixable. If you can bring down shipping costs, then work on that. You may not be able to bring down taxes. You may not be able to do anything about fees. But if you can do something about the shipping costs, then that's a really good thing to be working on. Not only that, the sooner you show, the earlier you show, and the more prominently you show the shipping costs that people are going to be up for if they become customers of your business, then the more you're going to help people have a frame of reference when they continue on using the website. If you leave it till the very end, then that's a massive reason for abandonment when the shipping costs come as a big surprise to them. Go ahead, Gareth.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to give a really good example of a client from a couple of years ago who was very much hanging on to her $10 shipping that she didn't want to lose $10 on the shipping. So she was firm, dug her heels in about charging $10 for shipping. And I said to this particular client that you're spending more than $10 trying to get new customers. In fact, it was something like $80 cost per acquisition of a new customer in advertising. And so I said to her that why don't we give them free shipping so long as we know that we will save $10 or more on the acquisition cost of that customer in the first place, because the e-commerce conversion rate would go up. They would get a better cart, a less cart abandonment. And turns out I was right. So the business then changed their policy to be free shipping, and yes, they lose $10 on some items because the item's $50 and there isn't enough margin to cover it. But what they do get is they acquire a new customer and they get a better return overall on their advertising spend. So always, I personally think everything should be free shipping, and customers really do not like paying for it. And it's even though it's only, if you can build it into the price or whatever, but particularly the point is if you are spending money on advertising, I would be highly surprised if you didn't save money on that and get a better return if you if you made your shipping zero. So I just wanted to add that. Thanks.
It's a really good area for analysis and improvement. So most of these things can be fixed. There's nothing that you really need to put up with as a reason that you can't do something about generally. So looking at it, how can you reduce abandonment? Well, we've got some of the points here. There's lots of ways, and really it's obviously very subjective down to the website. But to start with, trust is the first thing to make sure that your site is very trustworthy. Add in, you can use what we call trust builders, logos of trusted organizations that can help show that this is a trusted shop. There are other things you can have as trust builders as well. Customer testimonials, reviews, showing that other people trust you and therefore this new customer can trust you as well. We mentioned before about shipping. Be really clear about shipping, and any other costs there might be. Mobile, everything's got to be mobile friendly these days. Every shopping experience needs to work on mobile, unless you know that the big majority, 100% of your customers are sitting on a desktop. You need to look at the analytics and say, okay, how many of our customers are coming in on a mobile? In the previous example, the mobile traffic to that website is that we showed the Google Analytics. I won't go into what business it is, but 65% of their customers are on mobile, and it's really important that things work very well on mobile. Money back guarantees, great returns policy, guest checkout options, talked about that already. Some other points about processes, the processes that you're putting people through to make them or encourage them to buy. Try wherever you can to simplify the process. Build in an indicator on the checkout pages so that people can see where they're up to, and also show them that there are not very many stages in the process. And so the more you can simplify it and show people where they're up to with a progress indicator, the better. Thumbnail images of products in the shopping cart and at the checkout are really helpful so that people know that they've got the right product and they don't have to worry that whether the SKU name or the product name was, well, the SKU number or the product name was actually the product that they thought they added, especially if they're adding a few things in and taking a few things away. Another point is if people are in the cart or at the checkout and they want to go back to your store to look at the categories and to continue to shop, then make that an easy process. And payment options, always offer more than just one payment option if you can, because you don't know which one they're going to prefer. I mean, there's a reason Afterpay and Zip Afterpay, certainly it's gone nuts on the stock market, literally, but there's a reason, because turns out people seem to love it. So another thing that starts with P is performance, the website performance. Optimize your page load times. Websites need to load quickly. Shops need to load quickly. There's nothing more frustrating than a slow loading shop that people have got a choice where they buy from you or not, and they can easily choose to go buy from someone else. Promotional activities, remarketing to target advertisers. We've had other webinars on remarketing, so we won't go into a lot of detail about that. But that's the process of showing advertising to people who have been to your website. You can also use emails. You can also remarket to people who have come to you through Facebook. You can remarket to people who have come to your website as a result of a Google search. You can remarket to people who have got to the point of checking out, but then they've stopped that. So you can follow people up. And the bottom point there, use abandoned cart email sequences, is what most people who get into trying to recover the abandoners, what people do. And we'll talk a bit more about that in just a minute. And it's a really important thing. So how do you turn these abandoners, into customers? Firstly, you need to ideally know who they are and know how to get in touch with them. So you can do that by capturing their email. You may do that with what's called an exit intent pop-up, that if they move their mouse or they're in such a way that it looks like they're going to leave the page, then you can put a little modal pop-up in front of them and say, hey, give us your email address. And you got to give them some reason for doing that. There are if your checkout process has already captured the or requested the email address at the start and they've given it, then but even though they may not give their credit card, they've already given their email address, and so you can use that information to follow them up with an email. You can push notify and when people are back on your page, or even when they're not, to ask them to come back. And product reviews are really important. There's a question we get asked a lot, and that is, should you offer these people a discount? Is it smart to offer a discount to people to bring customers back or bring prospective customers who've abandoned ship, to try to bring them back? The answer is it depends. Best practice would say that offering a discount on the first follow-up message is not such a smart idea. Offering people a discount with the second or third cart retrieval message is a better idea. Otherwise, you'll train people into expecting a discount, and they'll just abandon, knowing that 5 minutes later they'll get an email saying, hey, here's how to get 10% off, or here's how to get free shipping. Another point is that if you to offer discounts to customers where their cart is above a certain amount. This is obviously an arbitrary thing, but if you offer discounts to everybody who just have a small purchase from you, that may work against you. So if you're going to be focusing in on offering discounts, then consider it for those people whose cart value is exceeding a certain amount. And I guess the point there is, what sort of customers do you want? Do you want those people who are price sensitive and are always going to be looking for a discount? Or do you want people who actually view and love your business and the relationship that you can provide them, the customer support you can provide them? Discount shoppers, price sensitive shoppers will generally always find somewhere cheaper to buy from, unless that is your point of difference, that you are the cheapest. So just got to sort of think that one through at a business strategic level. There are some tools that can help in this process, and there are some that we've listed here: Brilliance, Yieldify. These are platforms or systems that have been set up that you can use to help manage your abandoners and abandoned carts. Generally, these work by tracking the customers and then being able to send them emails to follow up. So Rejoiner is another one, Captify, and Privy, Snipcart. These are I actually haven't used either of those two, but we have various tools that we like to use. One that works really nicely with Shopify is Klaviyo, and we've got a number of clients who use Klaviyo, which allows you to have email flows to be able to follow up abandoned carts, to be able to have welcome series for customers, and there's heaps of information about Klaviyo. So if you use Shopify or are thinking of using Shopify, then Klaviyo is one to look at. As it also works with other systems, not just Shopify. So there you go. That's a quick flip through the world of shopping cart abandonment. Hopefully that's been helpful to you. There's lots more we could cover, but this is in the interest of keeping it concise. Very open to questions now, if anyone's got any questions. Otherwise, I'll hand back to Gareth actually and say, Gareth, what else do you want to add?
Thanks, Richard. I wanted to also make one mention about stock. I often find that we have a lot of clients who are spending money on ads or shopping or Facebook or something like that, and without realizing they have products on their website that they are out of stock. So that's often a reason for not getting checkouts, because the product that someone is wanting, they don't have stock. So it's one of those things to look at about back orders, or just being a bit more on top of stock and advertising. So which is easy enough to do with the right tools and the right strategies, but it's something that's often forgotten. So thought I'd throw that one in. And sometimes it's not always just about price. Sometimes someone will, particularly if you have a physical store that someone can come and click and collect and get it today, someone may actually pay more than a competitor if you have stock. because they might need that product, particularly if it's a time-sensitive product like a pool filter or a particular game or something that someone really wants. It's not always about the price, but sometimes it can be about stock.
That's right. If you're prepared to wait for a week or a month for something to be delivered, then you may buy it online. If you can't afford to wait that long, then it's not about price. Yeah, good point. Okay,
cool.
Gareth.
Thanks very much.
And we've run through our time.
We must have been so good today that no questions.
That's all right. Okay, thanks everybody for being part of this. And if there are any questions following up afterwards, please get in touch. And we're here to help. If we can help you in any way, please let us know. Thanks everybody.
Cheers.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.